Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thoughts about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. That supposedly cured and made Reploids immune to becoming Mavericks must have held a recovering Sigma who was using the aforementioned metallic medical research subject's not entirely voluntarily uploaded info to make himself mutate much faster and subsequently grow strong enough to act on certain emerging urges deeply programmed within what's now his virus. Mechanical people infected with the latest variant, like Mac over here, were meant to steal things such as the perfectly fine background vehicles and also any new weapons/classified info on their way out of the base. The damage on this place's exterior means those in charge have to spend too much money on fixing basic defenses to replenish what was swiped quickly enough, resulting in tremendous backup lacking for X. On that note, Zero's whole single usable life deal in this game is because there's currently only enough high quality spare parts readily available to regularly fix one ancient advanced android. This huge mechanoid at the end was likely infected before every other base punked bot buddy. It's a giant basic protective mechanism first line of defense thingamajig that caused much unwanted new entrants forming and distractions, which got followed up with many more recently mind-altered metal folks breaking in. Stuff like the new and fresh introduction of battling blizzardy boulders was decided by a certain Sigma storing scientist after he went over some data derived from brainwashed Maverick hunters who had been briefed on records regarding the X's previous exploits. Specifically, he knows that the rockin' reasoning relishing robot's typical action plan of figuring out weaknesses and whatnot would really get thrown off if things that surrounded Sting Chameleon showed up in a place reminding him of Chill Penguin. Bit and Bite may have scoured these occupied areas previously and figured out ways to mangle main character guy's progress, like by choosing which Maverick boss went where and then leaking false intel for opponent off-guard throwing purposes. Say, for example, they let news people know that someone would attack here, that'd be all sky feed. This fake fact would then prompt the AI Light to jettison his latest late capsule here for remaining child aid purposes, which would subsequently screw up somewhat once real raids began, and much slipperiness ensued. The capsules wouldn't move afterwards because relocating is simply way too problematic once battles reach a certain point. Plus, literal computer guy could always come up with self-assuring logic that makes staying near the new enemy sensible in his mind too. Speaking of which, this shiny shin sharpener was designed around upwards dashing because tirelessly toiling Thomas was well aware how X's last crisis involved much rising movement in that him hunter base. Anyway, his new reason for power product placement is that having more ways to charge around than a certain bullish bot would be quite helpful. Dr. Doppler may have been sneaking in helpful viral resistance bits and other true self-preserving programming during his Sigma-sent cyber shenanigans, hence why there are sub-tanks and whatnot near upgrades that make them far easier to reach, and also a bit more health lying around than usual. Related, regular recharge rigs really seem like they've been upgraded a fair bit. What with filling faster and everything, the downtime between main build appearances must have involved a decent amount of dearly departed doc consulting, which led to said things working better for his reluctant warrior creation. Concussive and incendiary forces banished beefy Blizzard Boy by working together to bust hide/horns while also overheating the stuff too. This guy, who human children could easily find at least a little appealing design having, might have been recruited by Sigma to poison water supplies because thinking about the new robot society he'll develop and how it/his people's future will be made him conjure up many methods of destroying hope for later fleshy foes. He'd especially hate biological kids because fresh minds are generally more likely to innovate, which could easily result in his true demise sometime down the line. Lots of kids are probably constantly advertised to regarding staying hydrated in this universe, just like the real one, which means drinking source ruining would hit them extra hard. In order to help counter that recently proposed Maverick location fake-out plan, Light would fashion these enhancement chips on the fly and place them in areas without full upgrades. The rush job is why only one can be installed at a time. Power efficiency can be really tricky to work out after all. Anyway, Cav complimenting card creation came about here because Thomas realized how much frog-themed ride armor really sucked, and he wanted X to have much better extra jumping action available whenever for compensation apology purposes. The highly abundant, extremely cold water dilutes and slows down this assault acid. Dirt traps wouldn't really ever phase X are zero on account of them both being buried for about a century. Once again, tunneling troops are a plentiful thing because more wily labs are being sought out. This is likely a whole constant struggle deal now because the virus mutating more means greater amounts of work area locations are popping into vicious reploid mind whatever. That whole bit where certain vile bots only truly bite the dust when killed with particular weaponry is because true Dr. Doppler's subconscious influence made sure they got constructed in a way that resulted in their manufacturing required weaknesses absolutely obliterating them. Anyway, this guy has issues with extreme temperature because the plating types that allow for greater sudden gymnastic maneuvers and cold heat resistance can't really be installed together. A hidden hoopla homing helmet hanging out here is because, of course, Dr. Light also wants himself and any allies privy to info regarding secret nemesis bases. The acid burning through Digging Dasher's outermost layer allows dangerous ores and resins found in this mine to get into his inner workings and cause vital system mucking up overworking bullcrap. Much like some stony snow soldiers spoken of earlier, data about X's prior battles would lead this rebellious record to the conclusion that those aiming sights and firing mechanisms being separate in Boomer Kawandra's stage wasn't really an efficient design. Advanced armor's anchored here in this fiercely fueled Fishfo's fortress because trustworthy Thomas wants his cherished son to make sure he's constantly extra dwelling upon how energy flow works after being handed something that makes barriers out of stored electrical mat and kinetic bits working together. On a related note, Wired Whale Watcher's whiskers get drawn in by the spiraling motions of these flowing fangs, leaving his round body less than prepared for any deep penetrating effects. Ball-based bearing bots seem like they must have all that extra space inside because their particular focus requires more complex wiring, like what's needed for constant extreme electricity emission in this case. Wet world-wandering warriors wrecked the Hunter's vacation plans this time around because that recently mentioned sinister science spot-seeking situation seemed like it might involve some submarine searching based on what new maybe memories were flashing into big bad bot brains. An executive enemy being stationed here that could crush one's torso quite easily is what inspired the placement of this build-boosting bit, both because obviously added defense would help reduce death chances in such a scenario, and also since that force field fanning for longer would help reduce off-guard catching moment when self-collecting junk was happening. Vile spinning blade troubles lie with his new exterior not being so much able to handle lots of vibration. Must have something to do with modifying it to let him ride external armor quite comfortably. He's hiding out in a former Sigma stronghold that the controlled Dr. Doppler isn't giving any info on, just in case that fellow wound up being not so loyal. This beautiful vehicle is full of extra lives in hell because X's world is starting to first-hand examine the deepest depth of its oceans, but still isn't sure whether or not even an extra super fighting robot can survive whatever pressure levels such exploration would bring. There must be different conductivity levels in his claws versus body, so he's forced to pay a ridiculous amount of self-attention in order to ensure proper maintenance gets done and whatever. If he didn't have to pay extra attention to such things, Talkin and other pride-associated crap might eventually result in overworking-induced main weapon dullness. Anyway, this peculiar power position proves problematic for him when exterior electricity gets added into the mix. Massive dinghy of the glowing variety occupying a bitty battle's background must be some rare element stuff that powers Tiger's trademark termination tool, Ray Splasher. By the way, said deadly doodad does in those three not as big bads rather easily, since that same rare substance fuels them, and it doesn't do so well with overloading situation. This still applies even when folks fuse for fighting fun. As kinda even seen on the dudes outside, not drill-proof super ability granting complex wire jobs exist within Fight as well. Perhaps in this instance it's enabling all that magnetic malarkey fucking X up. Swiftly spinning stuff screws over a colorful colossal kitty because the intricate frame structure required for awesome claw equipping doesn't hold up so well to super shaking. Nifty ride armor schematics must have been stolen in that first level contained Hunter HQ raid. Seems like they were all lawlessly lobbed into areas where the boss might be able to either directly make use of the things or convert them into self-strengthening mod deals. The Hyper Giga Attack producing arm chip was placed beyond brain-busting barriers of tool cost destruction requiring boxes and spike pits that must be cleverly evaded because once again, like doesn't want a crazily bloodthirsty X reaching maximum fighting power easily. Ray Splasher's particular elemental energy can't really be messed with all that much by gravity manipulation. X's uncharged jack weapons never really having the same same efficiency as original Mega, like not reaching Metal Blade levels of OP, despite much greater specs being present, is because his pacifism cripples Copying's capabilities somewhat. He can't really reduce his own blaster power by this degree though, given that it might make him malfunction or something. The Hyperhead Helper looks like a odd place somewhere that's good for simply hanging out and thinking about stuff. Light settled upon recovery for its primary purpose because his own musing made him realize how much of a pain in the gutsman X finds constantly killing enemies for minor refills. Those ride armor summoning pads' existence may be the reason Sigma's squad occupied these areas in particular during his third assault. Specifically, it appears as if the hunters were contracted to test out new models before main villain guy rose once again. An extra powerful and awkwardly agile antagonistic android agent was sent to the hidden factory that makes them, so it'd be harder to recover the program for basic pad operation before any special schematics were even located. Side note, this little hero-hampering heist also had the nice bonus of providing Vile a nigh-limitless supply of his favorite mini-mechs. This thing generates stuff that kinda looks like Sigma's wire grid viral form. Must be something meant to create the digital bad guy equivalent of those protein barriers normal viruses have. Hornet's odd body shape and quick-moving wing combo can't put up with sudden gravitational shifts. Sucks to be him. Zero's hatred of somebody who always comes back must involve a currently at least subconscious fear regarding getting revived and becoming incredibly violent being tied together. That absolutely flawless hyperchip seemingly got constructed by perfecting the individual rushed ones based on data gathered from X's reach and strength growth during this game's extra maverick-filled events. Ray Splasher Power Source overloads the thing just like this level's other boss option. Also, trying to throw out drills using something like a garbage disposal with countering smashing movements and everything causes other kinds of failure-inducing limit breaking in an overbearing stress-generating sort of way. The water's emptied out here if Bile's still alive because he threw a hissy fit over either failing at killing X earlier or missing his chance entirely and broke all those windows while doing so. Mini Mighty Mosquitoes isn't what damages Zero's energy processing power. It's wielding his saber with an inner body places like a charge shot. Everybody figuring this out is why he becomes a completely separate weapon from the next game onward. That creepy crawly crash just pushes his not-so-perfect interior over the edge. Volt Kurgale can't handle extreme temperature weapons like lightning and ice deals because whatever materials make such environmental switcheroos all tolerable for most Reploids is way too expensive to be applied on such huge machinery. The Z-Saber killing absolutely everything easily in its current form is because X copied it in a state where firing period requires charging. So when he wields it, the thing gets all double deadly or whatever, which is no problem for him because of that whole limitless potential deal. It fades away rather quickly after these battles because his pacifism really starts kicking in around this time, and such power truly terrifies him. Diligent Doppler doesn't do acid because he stripped his outermost layer of skin plate armor in order to reinforce Sigma's new battle body. Spinning blades and cold shields hamper this version of Sigma since he has many loose wires but not much external plating on account of what's needed for interfacing with his Kaiser container. That recently revealed Regal Robo Ride runs into trouble only when massive power bursts collide with it because the effort required for being completely immune to everything else makes excessive fueling crap a massive issue. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.